Jupiter Broadcasting presents this program in stereo. This episode brought to you by the extreme folks over at GoDaddy.com.
This week on the Linux Action Show, we've got you covered on the essential tools you need to be a remote Linux superhero. Plus, things are looking up for MeeGo's future App Store as momentum continues to build for this early platform. We give you the updates you need. Plus, more. All this week, Linux Action Show. And welcome to Season 14, Episode 6 of the Linux Action Show. My name is Brian. With me is Chris.
Hey there, Ryan. The new System76 dual-core Atom netbook runs Linux. You remember System76? We haven't talked about these guys in a while.
I do remember System76. I love System76.
I know it, and they've got
System76 is beautiful.
Look at this really slick laptop they've got, too. Or it's a netbook now. It's a 10.1-inch super LED backlit screen. Super LED just means it's got super bright LEDs in it, I think. It's got 802.11n in it, and it's fully supported under Linux. It's got a nice keyboard, and you know what it comes with instead of a Windows button?
Tell me.
It comes with an Ubuntu key.
See, that makes it worthwhile right there.
I likes it, dude.
I think that's important.
Starts at $385, so, you know, it's not too bad for a pretty good performance machine. I mean, you get a dual-core 1.5 Atom processor, and these are the this is the N550 line, which means it has hyperthreading. So you actually it looks like to the operating system that your netbook has 4 processors. Can we reflect on that for a minute?
So now this isn't just the standard Atom processors that are Pretenzi dual core. This is actually dual core
with hyperthreading.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, this is the new generation.
I got my Lenovo, and it's it's the what is it? The 470.
Yeah.
It's the N470, which is that hyperthreading thing. You know, so it shows up as 2-core, but it's not quite 2-core. But man, I do like the look of that.
This is that out of the box for $385 too.
That's actually a really good price.
Yeah, and a 250 gigabyte hard drive. Now it's only a 5400, but man, if you could afford to bump this up, like see this guy, you can get a 40 gigabyte Intel solid state. It's 120
and you're only at $500.
That's not bad.
At that point, you're not bad. How much RAM do you have by default?
With a solid state, 2 gigs. Yeah.
Oh, you're fine, dude.
With a solid state and a dual core Atom CPU, that could be a really great little netbook.
How big's the screen on that again?
10.1.
10.1, dude. That's stellar.
Yeah, that's not bad, right?
Hell of a netbook.
Jeez, so
plus a Ubuntu key on it.
Yeah.
No Windows key.
I know, right?
Like, I love my Lenovo tablet. It's great.
Yeah.
It runs Ubuntu with all the touchscreeny goodness you can muster. Has that stupid Windows key on it. But, you know, I don't want to just scratch it off. Because then it's just going to look like I took a knife to it or something. Because I have no artistic ability.
Yeah, and I've tried to peel it off, and it leaves that residue
It does. And I've seen the one. You can get, like, little stickers to put over it. But then it looks kind of cheap and janky.
It looks like when you've got, like, a bunch of things on a bumper or something.
I know. Even if you're not an Ubuntu guy, it's better to have the Ubuntu sticker than the Windows sticker.
Sure.
You know, even if you're just going to run SUSE
it represents one of your brethren.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chris,
dude, it's snowing outside, Brian.
Chris,
it's super cold.
It's so cold.
I know.
I woke up this morning and it was 33.
Yeah.
I don't know, 33 degrees, something like that.
No, we've got heaters on all around us in the studio. I came out here this morning in the studio. It was 43 degrees.
Inside. In here.
Yeah.
Right now,
like all of a sudden, it just
frozen.
got cold, and it always seems to like really kick in. Today's my wife's birthday, Angela, and so we went out for a little drive. And it started snowing while we were driving, and then we get home now and it's snowing.
How entirely festive for the season.
Very adorable. So she's gonna have a very merry birthday, is what she's gonna do. She's gonna actually start the Christmas decoration today.
Really?
That's her present to herself. She gets to decorate early.
Holy moly!
Well, I always feel like all the decorations go up, and then you have to take them down so soon. Might as well start a little early, I guess.
You know why you take them down so soon?
Because they're obnoxious?
Because Christmas is terrible. Hate Christmas. Good Lord.
Humbug, Brian. Hey, but you know what we do love, Brian?
Christmas. Hey, here's the thing I hate about this time of year.
Okay.
As soon as, like, just today, this is the start of it. I woke up this morning.
Yeah.
And I walked outside. You know, I threw on my standard shoes.
Gotta go say hi to the
goats. Walked outside. Well, it's kind of cold outside, so I give the goats some warm water in the morning because
nice.
You know I'm a good daddy.
Yeah.
And 33 degrees. So obviously I ran immediately back in the house. Here's a problem.
Good to see you, goats. Gotta go.
This is the time of year right now. As soon as it hits that 32-degree point, I have to start wearing socks again.
Oh, I know.
I don't wear socks.
Socks are uncomfortable, dude. They hold your feet behind.
I live in the Pacific Northwest, which there's a stereotype out there that we just walk around in like Birkenstock type shoes all the time.
Well, those are comfy.
We do. That is what we wear. That is our foot apparel.
Yeah.
And I don't wear socks.
No.
I have to wear socks now.
I know.
Now, granted, I still get to wear my Birkenstocky shoes, but I have to wear socks.
I'm wearing socks with my slippers right now, dude.
Dude, that's messed up.
It's the time of year.
That is messed up.
We'll get through it.
I've got at least 2 months ahead of me of sock wearing. I don't know what my feet are going to look like at the end of those 2 months.
Speaking of the time of year,
they could. I don't know, because I won't see them again until February at least.
We should let people know that we're planning to have a Linux Action Show next weekend. It's Thanksgiving weekend in the U.S. Stoked is taking the weekend off because it's shot on Saturdays. But Linux Action Show is planning to be here on Sunday like normal.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we should talk about?
No.
We should say holla over to our boys at GoDaddy.com.
Oh, that reminds me. If you go to GoDaddy.com's website, it's at http:// www.godaddy.com.
You forgot a dot.
/ Did I?
Yeah, no, it's www.godaddy.com.
The point I'm trying to make is when you want to register, Richard Stallman is a sexybeast.org. Because of course that would be an organization. Can I just
do Richard Stall? That's a little too long. Richard, how about can I do richardstalllover.com?
Richard Stalllover?
Yeah, because
no, I want sexy beast in there.
Oh, really? All right.
But here's the thing.
Redo.
So when you register a domain name that is that long, you can type in the word Linux when you check out. Just every field that doesn't require like your name or address or payment info, just start typing the word Linux in all caps, and you will eventually get it right, and you get 10% off.
There is just like a coupon code box you could just put it in. But
don't screw around here. What if you enter it in the wrong box because you're sleepy?
Don't risk it.
Because you slept in today because it's so cold, and you filled yourself with Benadryl because of your allergies. You're gonna type it in the wrong box.
Probably will.
Here's the thing.
Right,
if I were to buy a website right now, I would type Linux as my address.
I would make it. I was thinking about what you were saying.
It would not work.
Make it as long as possible, because when you put Linux in and you get 10% off, you're getting like more value for more characters. Like people that buy the 3-letter domains are getting screwed.
That is more letters for your buck.
Yeah.
More Latin ASCII letters for your dollar.
And of course, you can always use the code Linux20 if you want to save 20% off hosting plans.
Hosting!
Thank you, GoDaddy, for your awesome support of Linux Action.
Halfway through that part, I forgot that we were like advertising for them. Like I just was like, I want to talk about this now.
It's an important subject.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I got a cool pick today, and I'm doing it kind of geeky style. And this is a good one to watch the video version, because I've hooked up on my Evo here a VNC server, so I can actually give a demonstration now of the apps that I'm talking about. And so today's app pick, I'm going to pick two for you. The first one is the Android Beer Guide. Now, if you're a Beer's Tasty fan, you probably want to check this one out, because what's really great about this is you can browse by your location and things like that, and you can find. Say you're at the restaurant and you're like, oh, what's a popular beer here? Oh, I see that this. Well, okay, let's read some review. Apparently, Bud Light Lime is very popular in my location. So let's go read some reviews on Bud Light Lime, and I get information about it, the average ratings. But what's really good is if you're trying to pick a beer at dinner, well, now you can just use this app, and it's got the best rated beers, all these kinds of things.
Bud Light Lime is so bad.
Well, here's a fancier one. Check this one out. I can't even say the name of this one. You want to give it a shot?
Chauffé.
But it looks like a good beer for when it's cold out.
Yeah.
So that's enough.
I don't know why it looks nice for when it's cold out, but it says it has ice in it.
I love this too, because it gives you the alcohol by volume for every beer, and then it gives you the type of beer it is. So this is a Belgian strong dark ale, and then it gives you the brewery too. And if you tap on the brewery's name, it gives you all of the beers that this thing knows about that brewery makes. Now this is a small brewery, but so it's kind of cool, because
that's pretty neat.
If you know there's a brewery you like and maybe they don't have that beer, you can see what the other beers that brewery carries, and maybe they have that one.
You know, that's all great and everything, but the only part I'm really interested in is the fact that you are
VNC'd into it.
We are live streaming out your Linux Mint box.
Yeah.
VNC'd into your Android phone.
I know.
That is super awesome.
It is pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, I love everything about that. I don't care about these Android picks. I don't have an Android phone right now.
You know, the people Android Beer Guide.
I mean, so you know what I mean. I'm not going to go home and download them, so I don't care. But I love this. This is great. We should just have a segment. What am I VNCing into this week? That would be cool.
Actually, we're going to talk a lot about that later in the show. But
Thank goodness.
One last pick I want to give you. Maybe you have, this is happening a lot for clients that I've had, is they're getting issued Android phones, right? So it's a work phone, and you don't get to keep it if you leave that company.
Sure.
Or maybe you're doing the present shopping for your wife's birthday on here, and you don't want her to look at your web history. Right? Well, it's pretty easy to clear your history on a computer's desktop browser, but on the phone browsers, it's actually not as straightforward to kind of clean up after yourself.
Yeah.
So
true.
I'm going to link in the show notes here. This is a history wiper application that will clear your market search history, your Google Map search history, your YouTube, Google Earth, and web browser and other stuff. So it goes through and does like a system clean out for you. So I'll link that in the show notes. That way, maybe if
It's a great app if you're a terrorist.
if you're moving on from a
You
job,
don't want the FBI to know where you've been.
well, think about this? What if you're at Microsoft and you're using an Android phone? Because you know a lot of them down there probably use Android phones, and you're sitting there texting about how great Linux is with other Microsoft coworkers, and then you quit. You want to just wipe your phone, that way you don't have to worry about it. So there you go. Kind of nice for that, right? You think about it like that. Not the terrorist angle. I think about it from the employee angle.
All right.
It's more legit.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, Brian.
Let's do the news.
All right.
What's new in the news this week?
All right, Brian.
Nice. Very nice.
The top story on the news docket.
No, I'm going to stop you right there.
All right.
I don't think there's any news this week.
No, it's pretty light news week.
There's
to be
nothing
honest with you.
happening.
It's kind of
I was looking through last night, and I part of me just wanted to say no news in the entire Linux or open source world this week I want to talk about.
We said, well, let's just start the news segment, say no news, and then end the news segment.
Yeah, just play the little outro, call it good.
But actually, I found a couple of stories
There's
kind
a
of
few
interesting.
things, but yeah, all right. I'm going to let you talk because you love talking.
I think they're big picture stories. You know what I mean? Like,
all right, lay it on me.
Nokia's Ovi store. That's the Nokia app store for
How do
the
you say that?
Symbian platform.
Ovi?
I think it's Avi or Ovi, yeah.
Ovi.
3 million downloads a day now they're clocking in.
Almost all for Symbian.
Yeah, and the apps are, they're not the greatest.
Dear Lord, no.
The main apps are Swipe, which lets you draw on the screen for the keyboard,
Yep.
an NHL Game Center app, and a Messenger app.
That's cool. Hockey's cool. I like hockey.
There's been some strong interest there. It's the reason why I'm covering it is because there's over 165 million people now using the store, and they say that they're adopting 250,000 new users a day to the store. Huh. And I think the reason why that's important is because this is the same store that'll be available on MeeGo.
That's true.
So this is sort of the early, depending on how the success of this store, that's going to dictate the MeeGo store. Yeah, absolutely.
Entirely different apps.
But the same company running it,
the same
with
company,
the same reputation.
It's still working.
Yeah.
People are used to seeing the name and clicking on the thing. That is good. I mean, we've already got it on the MeeGo phones. On the N900 already has the Ovi store.
So check this out.
But it's, I don't know, like I use it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just, there's not a whole lot there.
Yeah.
So it's not really that worth using.
But the potential's there though, because they had 400,000 new developers so far sign up in 2010.
That's
and 1.5 million downloads of the Qt-based SDK.
I do like that.
So that's
the more
really big.
devs that are using Qt, that's a big deal.
I like that. Yeah. So I wanted to throw this in there because I thought it was interesting to kind of kick around as MeeGo approaches, because our next story, Brian.
Yes.
On the news docket for this week.
Ready.
MeeGo conference was held this weekend, or this last week, and it apparently still had pretty good momentum and energy behind it, despite a lack of any actual hardware there.
Yeah. Well, hey, they got N900s.
Yeah, they were expecting to have like a dedicated, designed for MeeGo hardware device by now.
The N9 or whatever they're saying it's going to be.
In December. At the conference. They decided, well, we don't have it yet, but we've got the dual boot for the N900.
Yep.
And we're going to go ahead and have the conference. And, it actually was kind of interesting. They
which I should say, we will be reviewing that on an upcoming episode.
Yeah, we should do that.
I was kind of hoping they'd have another update available for MeeGo for it before we did that, because it's somewhat limited right now. There's not a lot of apps for it. It's fairly limited, but it does run, and it actually runs pretty well on the N900. So I've got it running on my N900.
That's cool.
I'm dual booting it right now. Let me play with it for a little while longer, so probably a couple weeks out, and then we'll review it.
Let me lay a little knowledge on your face here, Brian. There is a...
How much knowledge?
Well, a little bit of knowledge.
All right.
There's a company out there called MeeGo, and they're developing a Atom-based set-top box. and it runs off of MeeGo. And
awesome.
It is awesome. And it said that now check this out. Are you ready for this? Because you're really gonna love this.
Dude, I am ready.
This is one of the companies that was at the MeeGo. Get the meeting. I don't want to call it. I guess it's a conference. I guess you can call it a conference.
Let's just call it MeeGoCon.
MeeGoCon. Anyways, they're developing it using MeeGo as the platform, PyQt, so Python and Qt. But ready for this? They're doing the bulk of their development on the OpenSUSE build service, which is also used extensively by the MeeGo project itself.
Yep.
So what's really interesting to see the company Amino come along, develop the set-top box, a media set-top box, and then also utilize the OpenSUSE build service in this way, just like the MeeGo project is. I mean, there's a lot of... I could see how that could make a project that's based off something that's already in the build service extremely agile.
It would be awesome.
Oh, dude, you could stay in sync with each other so well. I mean, it's just the same back end. It's some of the advantages of multiple projects that are based off the same thing using Launchpad, but also using a build service that can build the things for them and distribute the software and do the hosting. And it just seems like an awesome combination for this company to come along and say, hi, we're Amino. We're going to take your MeeGo Linux platform that's completely open source and free. We're going to use this completely free build service that uses open source tools, and we're going to deliver our product using Linux. I mean, it's just an awesome. It's a complete Linux production line here.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
I'm excited about this.
It's revolutionary.
This is a leg up that MeeGo offers that Android doesn't, in the sense that it's a little more Linux organic. Yes. It's a little more,
Linux organic.
Well, it is, because what
I just like the phrase.
Well, what's bugging me right now, dude, is gingerbread, right? If Android is open source and Google's so open and everything's open with Google, then why can't we see the gingerbread source code? Why do we have to wait, just like we have to wait for the iPhone when Steve Jobs comes out on stage and unveils it upon us? We're waiting for the same exact thing with Google. There's zero difference in openness right now.
Yep. And Google is not an open source company. They're an advertising
firm. I know, but they talk about open. But the difference is MeeGo is truly open, though. I can go open the oven and see how MeeGo's baking right now if I want to.
Right now. And
I know I can do an SVN checkout with Android, but I can't do an SVN checkout of gingerbread.
Right.
So...
I mean, that's the thing. Well, I mean, Android, while it's based on top of Linux, is, a Java runtime system with a lot of Java. Essentially, it's like a Java applet container.
Yeah.
In a weird kind of way. Yeah, it's not technically what it is, but that's kind of what it is.
I've got a terminal on here, and I can open it up, and I can browse around the Linux file system.
Yep.
But the applications themselves aren't like X11 applications or something. They're not.
They're just little Java apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool and everything. I like Android, but
I'm loving it.
I love MeeGo. I'm still really skeptical about the ability for the market to look at MeeGo and say, oh, we need that, and a whole bunch of people to buy it.
I agree.
But if it's as cool as the N900 or the N810s or those sorts of things, it might be the great go-to geek phone. And that's even if that's all it is, that'll make me happy. Hopefully it makes Nokia happy enough that they'll stick with it.
And it'll sell a lot of Atom processors, which will make Intel happy, and that's sort of the beautiful little marriage they have going here.
I love beautiful little marriages. Now, and AMD has jumped on board now.
Yep.
So AMD has just jumped on board. Was this last week?
Yeah, that's big.
All right, that's a news story. We should have included that one.
We were getting there. We're rolling it in.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
We planned for that. Yeah. I love.
One of us did.
So Intel and Nokia and now AMD are all on the MeeGo bandwagon. Yeah. That's awesome.
No, it's very good, because I have been particularly worried that MeeGo was just going to be an Intel showcase.
Yeah, me too.
I've been really worried that they're going to own it.
And you notice on the various sites, like on MeeGo's website, they're talking more and more about ARM-based processors. Like they're not just talking about Atom processors
because ARM still has a strength there for sure. I think with the battery savings and stuff like that.
Big time strength.
I mean, Intel's eventually going to have something shipping that competes with ARM, but ARM has something shipping today.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
All right, Brian.
Right. Wait a minute. Hold on. This reminds me.
I was about to bust this reminds me.
Were you gonna call our news segment?
Well, I was thinking so.
No.
All right, lay it on me.
You know what? Here, I got a little more news. So we've been talking about like the Ubuntu marketplace.
Yes, this is news.
They're bringing in some new apps.
Yeah.
So I've been talking with the guys over at Canonical. My app, Illumination Software Creator, is getting into the Ubuntu Software Center store.
That's awesome.
Shortly. It's technologically done. The contracts are signed and done. Everything's ready to go. They've even got screenshots and text and legalese and all that stuff.
That's cool.
So it could show up any day now. It could show up tomorrow. It could show up 2 weeks from now, but it's going to be showing up very, very quickly. What the good thing about that is that tells me that they've got real apps coming in now, because right now they've got the DVD player from Fluendo, which is fine, except most people aren't going to buy it, and the people who are going to buy it are people who probably already bought the Fluendo codec pack previously, and it's a cool app to have in there, but it's more of a trial thing, and one little game that looks kind of like it doesn't pique my interest at all. So it's not that interesting. It looks like a low-quality game. I don't mean to harsh on the guy who made it. It's probably a fun game, but you know what I mean? It doesn't look that exciting, considering there's so many great commercial Linux games.
Absolutely.
Anyway, this makes me happy because this tells me that Canonical is actively pushing ahead to get apps in the store quickly.
Yeah.
Now, here's the cool bit. I wanted to talk over a little bit of how they're doing this.
Can you?
A little bit.
Okay.
I can't tell a ton, but they're actively utilizing Launchpad.
Yeah, okay.
So I mean, Launchpad's a cool thing that Canonical's got going.
Yeah.
So in Launchpad, you can set up your own PPA for your own project.
Right.
Now you can make a private PPA. That for your project. So now what happens is Illumination Software Creator will have this own private little PPA that no one has access to except for Canonical and us.
Oh, interesting.
And whenever we want to update the app, all we have to do is go into that Launchpad, to that PPA.
So you log into Launchpad, you have like Illumination
update
Software
the files,
Creator,
put in the new binaries, update the version information,
and then people get fed to it via the PPA subscription.
and then it comes through the repos.
So they're managing application updates and distribution. They're leveraging existing app technology and the PPA stuff that they've built.
Exactly.
What's genius about that is
it's so great.
I really think like distro repos are the early app store, right? They are. The Linux community created an application distribution model that works perfect for this,
and we've been perfecting it for so many years that it works flawlessly. Yeah. And here's the great thing.
Flawless.
Now, if you're like, let's say, a developer for like Android or iPhones or whatever.
Yeah.
The first time you submit an app, it takes 17 years.
I don't know about Android, but
it takes a while.
Okay.
For your app to show up in the marketplace, it has to get approved. It has to go through an approval process. Obviously, with Canonical, that process is actually a little longer right now because they have to manually go through the process, get you all set up and everything. However, when you want to publish an update to your app with the iPhone App Store or something like that, you might be spending several days, few weeks waiting for approval.
When you want to launch a new version and do marketing around it and all that kind of stuff.
Think about it from this point of view. What if you make a massively multiplayer game or a game with internet connectivity to a specific game server or something like that? So exactly. So you want to update the server and update the client. Well, they both have to be updated at the same time.
Right.
How do you have to wait, submit your change in the client to the App Store and sit and refresh, and have someone do that manually constantly every 12 seconds and then flip it live on the server the second it's available. Whereas with the way that Canonical's doing it, I can update it and it's
You push the button?
I push the button.
That's nice.
Yeah, because they've already approved the app. They know the app is good. They trust the person behind the app. That's why they approve it.
Right.
So it's available immediately. And obviously, if a problem crops up, well, then they'll do something about it.
Yeah.
Then they'll hop into it and they'll be like, "Hey, Dev, what are you doing? Do we need to disable this?
When there's a problem.
Do we need to roll it back?" It's great. So I love that.
I
just wanted to throw that out there because during our Ubuntu 10.10 review, that was the one thing I kind of harshed on Canonical for.
Yeah.
Was that they only had one app at that time.
It seemed like it was launched. Well, it was launched really before it was ready.
It was. However, they said at the time, we're going to quickly roll apps out. Now, we didn't know whether to believe them or not because, they've never done this before.
And companies have said that kind of stuff before, and then it's like you just wait around and sit.
Now they're doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what other apps fall into the App Store. But heck, even if it's just Illumination Software Creator, it's pretty great, right? I mean, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
For any apps, it's a big get. Is what I'm saying.
I bet you'll Twitter it out when it's in there for sure.
Oh yeah, I'll send everyone a link out so you can go check it out. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter to me if you buy it from me or from Canonical or whatever. I just think it's a cool sign that it's available.
That is really cool.
That's very, very cool.
And that they're really moving. And it actually shows commitment to the store.
It does.
Yep.
It does. So I thought that was a big thing. Wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely.
It's more like pre-news.
Yeah.
Because it's not news right now. Because it's not there right now.
Right.
I mean, by the time you are watching this, it might be. I don't know. But
we don't know, but that Ubuntu software store could turn out to be a huge thing for desktop Linux software.
It could.
So everything that happens at that store, I'm going to be watching.
And here's the great thing. Now, in the Ubuntu Software Center,
Yeah.
it doesn't say popularity rankings. It doesn't say how many downloads or purchases or anyone's gotten.
Yeah.
And of course, it's so new. Canonical hasn't come out and said, "Here's how our sales are doing." We've got a guy on the inside now, so I can watch how the sales are doing
they're gonna pull
from
your
my
app
app,
before it even makes it out there.
and I can let you guys know how it's doing, and then we can kind of extrapolate. I mean, obviously, if an app like Angry Birds or something shows up in the App Store, that's going to sell like 1 billion times more than Illumination Software Creator. Because I mean, come on, Illumination Software Creator is not for everybody. It should be, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
Seriously though, it should be.
It is.
Yeah. If you haven't bought it yet, and if you haven't bought it, like let's say you're trying to buy holiday presents.
Oh.
If you haven't yet,
Nothing says Merry Christmas like Illumination Software Creator.
that's so true, Chris. No, anyway. So, but this kind of gives us a little insight as to really what's going on.
I like that.
So
I'm looking forward
dig
to that too.
I dig it. That's all I have to say on that. I just wanted to throw that out there. So upcoming. So you guys probably will see. So the SUSE Studio and SUSE Gallery. So so the Illumination Software Creation Station was the distro of the week for like the last 3 weeks.
That's cool.
So I'm assuming that it means it's 3 times better than any potential distro of the week.
It deserves it for
It's like
3
this
weeks
featured
straight.
distro.
Yeah.
So Novell's got the Disters contest coming up.
The what?
The Disters. Have you seen this?
No.
If you guys search for Novell Disters,
I'm gonna have to
do it real quick. There's a little logo on it. The Novell Disters contest.
Just like I spelled it?
Yeah, the Disters contest.
Oh, okay.
So basically what it is they're taking all the various things in the gallery, all the various, all of them, right? And they have two categories, one for just open source community distributions and one for commercial distributions. And basically what this is they're going to announce 2 winners, one in each of those categories, of the best distribution built with SUSE Studio and put up on SUSE Gallery. Of course, Illumination Software Creation Station is up there.
Wow.
So there is a panelist of celebrity judges judging it right now. And I'm just saying, does it say who they are on there by any chance?
It does down here, yeah. Let's see here.
Wait. Okay. So it's got Labs editor-in-chief at eWeek, Jason Brooks, who is a beautiful man.
Really?
Gorgeous.
We're going to do this?
Senior editor at newsweek.com, Sean Michael Kerner, who I would just love to buy a beer. I mean, after this, obviously, because I don't want to influence him, but he just deserves a beer for all the good work he does.
That's true.
The OpenSUSE community manager, Josh, I really should have learned how to pronounce his name before I started doing this. Port Vliet, who has the coolest last name ever. And I like that guy.
Yeah,
Vice
that's a good
President
one, right?
and General Manager of Open Platform Solutions at Novell's, Marcus Rex.
Yeah.
How awesome is the
Rex.
name Marcus Rex? Now, by the
Sounds
way,
like a comic book character.
it does.
Like a superhero.
An awesome superhero. Blogger and contributor Stephen J. Vaughn Nichols, who, come on,
horrible.
he's just amazing. And of course, last but not least, the executive director of the Linux Foundation, Jim Zemlin, who, let's be frank, is the most amazing executive director of the Linux Foundation currently.
I've also heard he has a huge penis.
Wow. I want to thank my co-host Chris for taking it one step farther than I was even prepared to go. So
I just figured let's just go for it.
So what I'm just saying is if you see any of these guys on the street, just shake their hand and thank them.
Yeah.
Before the vote,
Right.
for their vote for Illumination Software Creation Station
There you go.
to win that contest.
All right, Brian. That's all the news
I am such a whore.
for this week.
Here at the Linux Action Show, we have a long-standing tradition of covering things that are not very techy. We've talked about... Hold on. Bear with me, Chris.
Okay.
We've talked, like when we review a distro,
Oh, okay.
oftentimes we'll point at it and we'll say, we don't like blue. We cover things.
I see what you're saying.
People make fun of us
that
for
icon is green.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We cover things both from the tech perspective and the very end-usery perspective.
Yeah, we do
However,
kinda, yeah.
every now and then, we do something that is just pure IT-ness.
Yeah.
One time, this was probably about 4 years ago now.
Been a long time, man.
You did an entire 45-minute segment on firewalls.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you.
Maybe a little
I
sleepy.
almost fell asleep. It bored me to tears.
Yeah.
However, it was very informative. People reference it years later. People used it to set up their firewalls.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
very useful.
Yeah.
So, in that tradition, that bold tradition of occasionally making Brian want to fall asleep, I would like to do an entire segment on remote administration.
Well, let me preface it. Let me prep your brain for it, sir. Are you ready?
Okay.
Think of it like this.
All right.
What happens when you're the computer person in the family? And you go and the holidays come around. You know, in the U.S., we've got Thanksgiving. We've got many holidays coming up in December. You always get roped into helping somebody with their computer. Oh, hey, while you're here, could you take a look at this for me?
No, see, here's the thing. You don't have to do that if you're always drunk through the holidays.
True.
Because then
they don't want to let drunk Brian touch their computer.
You don't want to let drunk Brian touch anything.
Well, I always...
Or just pretend to be drunk. Once you've done it once, you know how to do it again.
I'll tell you what my trick is. My trick is to get it done remotely before you get there, because if you get it done remotely, you end up having to do less, and then you just go enjoy yourself.
I do like that.
So this whole segment's going to be about remote administration.
Okay.
But I got to be honest, I'm going to slant a little bit towards the local LAN administration. Like you maybe got a couple of computers in your house. Because I've only got one real solid pick for complete remote administration, and that's TeamViewer. Because a lot of times your family members are using Windows. They're not using Linux. Although you may have some Linux using family members, but the only one that's truly cross-platform that sort of traverses firewalls and all that stuff is TeamViewer. So I'm just getting that out of the way. Take a look at TeamViewer. If you're an OpenSUSE user, you can take a look at WebYast. This came to me from Bear on Twitter, and WebYast for OpenSUSE looks sweet. You might be getting configured, but they'd have to be running SUSE in order to use that.
Right.
So let's kind of put those out of the way. 10%
of Linux users are using OpenSUSE. How many Linux? What's the percentage market share right now of Linux desktops?
Boy, you know they don't. I would. My belief is somewhere to 4 to 5%.
Yeah. Okay. So 0.4
would use OpenSUSE.
So if you have 100 family members, 0.4 of one of those persons is running OpenSUSE.
Well, unless you happen to be the person that's bucking the trend, maybe you're loading the whole family up with OpenSUSE, like Bear on
Then
Twitter.
You're awesome. You are awesome if you're doing that.
There's a few other apps that also do that, but TeamViewer is kind of one of the well-known ones. I'll link to techradar.com in the show notes if you want to learn more about TeamViewer. It's proprietary. It's not free for business use, but it's free for personal use.
That's pretty cool.
So I'll link to. They also cover it's TechRadar's top 7 Linux remote administration, and I'll throw that in the link because they cover some of the proprietary ones as well. So check the show notes for that. But the first one I want to talk about, Brian, is let's shift gears here.
I like how you did the shifting gear hand motion,
man.
But the sound that you made was more of a cocking a shotgun.
Yeah.
Here we go. Locked and loaded.
You know what I discovered going through this is I already have my ultimate pick for the remote administration app, but I really was surprised at how crappy so many of the viewers are for Linux. You know, like just bad performance. Total performance varies from client to client. You know, there's every desktop has some sort of application that they picked as the remote screen. Like, you know, there's KFRB or whatever under KDE, and there's a few different ones under GNOME. And the one that I found that is just totally rock solid and it offers the most varying range of protocols and features, I want to call it Reminia.
Reminia?
Yeah, the guy says it stands for Remote Mini Administration or something like that, but he says it's your personal preference. Kind of a funny. It's an open source project, and it's going to be in Ubuntu 11.04 as their default remote desktop.
Oh, really?
tool. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I've set it up here on my computer, and the way I've done it is I've got 3 VNC connections, you know, like my Evo and a couple of computers here in the studio, and then next to it I've also got an NX connection, a free NX. I'll talk about that later. But what that means is this thing actually supports quite a few different types of protocols, including remote desktop for Windows, NX for NX, SSH, and it can also turn on as a VNC server. So if you just want to flip on a VNC server on your computer real quick, it can manage that too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of slick. It also does SFTP. It has a ton of great features, including it can do reverse SSH tunnels. So if you want to do file transfers when you have a VNC connection.
Oh, I like that.
But what's really, truly great about it is that it's got fantastic performance. I mean, out of everything that I tried, it's got some of the best. It's got some of the best performance. Period for multiple different types of VNC servers. A lot of times, a VNC client like Tight VNC Viewer will work really great with a Tight VNC server. But then it works like balls with the OS 10 built-in VNC server, right?
Like balls.
Well, this client actually works really great. And right now, if you're watching the video version, I'm remoted into an editing OS 10 machine in the other room, and the performance is actually really fine. It's totally usable, and this has been a major point of problems before in the past is that when a lot of times Linux VNC clients just suck on OS 10 and suck on Windows, and I connected to an Ultra VNC server on Windows. I've connected to a bunch of different types, and this guy just works great, and the performance is fantastic. And that's just VNC.
And it's pretty fluid.
Yeah, it's really good. And the other thing that's really nice about it is you can do a new connection, and if you want to do VNC, it uses it's not called, Apple calls it Bonjour, and they don't call it the
Rendezvous.
They don't call it that anymore either.
Zero
Avahi, ZeroConf is another. Yeah, exactly.
.local.
And this client also has support for that, so it can actually go out on your network and automatically discover all of the VNC servers on your network. So you don't have to worry about, oh, what's that computer's IP address? So you can see I got a list of machines on my home network that support VNC, and I can just double-click on one of them and connect.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it also supports IPv6.
So you don't even have to use your brain.
I don't even have to use my brain.
You don't have to do anything.
No, I love that.
That's fantastic.
All right.
Because at this point, I'm halfway asleep.
Now, Brian.
Yes.
Before you go completely asleep, let me tell you, there is, if you're on a GNOME desktop, and this is also in KDE, I just don't remember what it is right off the top of my head. If you're on a GNOME desktop, you can go into the settings and look for the Remote Control Preferences app. This is really cool because this just lets you turn on VNC on your computer with just a click of a button. And if you have one of those routers that supports universal plug and play, it can actually even go out and set your port forwarding. So you can get VNC over the internet to your desktop. And the GNOME version of this will do that. My router doesn't support that, so it's got a little yellow notification box on there. But this is a really cool way to just turn VNC. You
have the same router I do.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I know. It's
I hate my
router.
Yeah, great internet connection we've got, but holy moly, the router we have to use with it is just atrocious.
So if you're in GNOME, look for Remote Desktop Preferences, and it's a similar vernacular under KDE, and that just flips on VNC. Now, be sure you password protect it. I turn my VNC servers off when I'm not using them. Especially, I don't recommend you have it on a laptop where you might be like at a coffee, Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So do it on a secured network. Okay.
All right.
Now, this next one's the geeky one. Right. And people have probably heard of this one before, and I wouldn't tell this on any other show, but I know that my Linux Action Show viewers, they are the geeky ones, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. So I want to talk about NX, and FreeNX specifically. This is one of the most elegant and beautiful remote desktop solutions available at all. Period. It beats remote desktop for Windows.
Why?
It competes completely with Citrix on a lot of levels. It's fast and it's super secure. And it leverages existing technology, so it's completely lightweight on the server when you're not using it. It's completely zero impact. It's fantastic. So you're familiar with SSH.
Yeah.
Fantastically secure remote login tool.
SSH is the wave of the future.
Right. And it supports X11 forwarding, taking advantage of that networking ability that X11 has.
That we're about to lose because everyone's going to move over to Wayland.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So what NX does is you connect into your NX server over an SSH connection, so port 22, totally nice and encrypted. It utilizes the X11 forwarding features of SSH, but it takes over and does a lot of really great compression, and the client does a lot of really intelligent caching. The end result is freaking-tastic, near local performance. So on the video version right now, I am remoted into a machine in Texas, and I'm in Washington, and I'm playing a video. Now, it's a little slideshowy in the video capture that you see, but I'm actually literally playing a video off of JupiterBroadcasting.com in this remote session. And this client has support for remote audio and remote file access and remote printing, and this is all free. The only drawback is you have to have an SSH connection directly into your machine. But if you have that, this is a real serious possibility, and it's super snappy. I have been operating exclusively inside a FreeNX session for probably a month solid during the day. I mean, just completely using it top to bottom, not a single problem. Copy and paste works seamlessly between the FreeNX client and your desktop. So if you want to copy and paste between there, it's really nice.
I like that much. How about file transfer between the two?
You know, I haven't played with it much, but it does have...
if you could drag and drop a file, that would be it.
It has support to mount back to a folder on your local machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so then you can just browse it. Yeah, it works. I like that. It works good.
It's like having VirtualBox right there, except it's like a remote real box.
And it uses SCP for file transfer, so it's a nice, secure SSH encrypted file copy.
No, but this is not free.
It's an interesting thing. So Google has the FreeNX, the NX company has a commercial product based on a ton of open source technology. X11, SSH, all the stuff right there. I think the compression libraries even. So the company is called No Machine, and you can go to nomachine.com to find them. And they make what they sell is a really nice almost Citrix killer with a remote administration console. You can shadow sessions.
Interesting.
You can set up policies and all this kind of stuff. But if you just want the core remote desktop, you can go download their client, which is not open source.
Okay.
But you can get an open source version of the server, and I'll have links in the show notes. And Google's now maintaining an open source version of the server. There's almost all distros repos have it. If you search for free NX, almost all of them have it, and it's really great. Ubuntu has a fantastic wiki on how to set it up if you're an Ubuntu user. And I've seen guides out there for Fedora too, so I'm sure there's other ones for the other distros.
Interesting. And someone in the chat room was saying that the NX libraries themselves are open source.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's almost, in my setup that I'm using now, I think the only closed source part is the client itself, which is a free download from their website, and they have a Mac, Windows, and Linux version.
Awesome.
There is, however, a completely free client too. I actually didn't have very much success with it, so that's why I didn't talk about it in today's show. But it's called QTNX, and QTNX is the client, and it's completely free as well. So you could use this. For whatever reason, I couldn't establish a connection. And this might have been why, because one of the things I forgot to touch on is NX supports suspending your session. So say you've got maybe a couple of terminal windows open, a web browser up, you got your email. I love this one. I often will log into the IRC chat room in there. So then I just always am logged into IRC, and if I want to chat, I just log into the NX session.
So that's just your box.
Yeah,
that's how you work.
And I will move from a Mac laptop to a Linux desktop to a Windows machine and just sign into an NX session whenever I want. It's super nice. The suspend and resume functionality is great, and it'll even resize on the fly, based. So it's not a fixed remote window size. Like you won't be able to see it here on the video version that much, but I have my window here, and I can go up into the corner and I can drag it, and the free NX client immediately resizes the whole window. So that means even if you're resuming in a suspended, so like if I'm on a 30-inch monitor with my NX session full screen, it's still fantastic.
You change the resolution on when you switch machines.
But if I jump down to a laptop, it just automatically resizes to the screen laptop.
Gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I'm running it in with XFCE, so it's nice and light performance, and it's just total tops.
That's awesome.
I
think
so
awesome.
The next step is I'm going to set up a free NX server in my house, and I'm just going to connect into my house all the time.
Honestly, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, I love working on my netbook all the time.
Yeah.
I got my tablet, and I love it. But obviously, the little Atom-powered processor is not quite the greatest thing in the world for, doing long compiles and whatnot.
You could totally do an NX session.
Server at home.
Yep.
NX into it at home all the time, no matter what machine I'm on. Honestly, the performance looks fast enough to do all my development work.
Oh, it totally is. I'm
not going to do any games on it,
no.
but
you could do a slower, like you could totally play like a solitaire or those types of games,
but not like a first-person shooter or something.
No,
yeah, but still, that's fantastic.
There is a client out there that I haven't tried that supposedly even has some early OpenGL acceleration, but I haven't tried it.
That's ridiculous.
That could be crazy.
That is.
Just in time for Wayland to take away it all.
Ridiculous. Yeah, to ruin all the functionality. Now, they're saying Wayland is going to have theoretically some of the features that they need.
They could build them still.
Yeah, so hopefully that will still be around. Well, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'd be curious to know what people out there have tried. So leave us a comment or head over to jupitercolony.com. There's a section in there just for the Linux Action Show, and you could leave some thoughts on your remote administration tools.
I didn't actually fall asleep.
Nice.
I'm kind of bummed out now.
And you know what, Brian? That's all the remote administration for this week.
Okay, that brings us, thank God, to the end of this week's episode because I need to take a nap.
Yeah.
But before we take a nap, I wanted to give a little shout out /update /commentary
on the Lifehacker controversy, Brian.
So, if you've been watching the Linux Action Show, you know that it seems as though
on occasion, every now and then,
certain articles on Lifehacker, let's say the Android picks and an Arch review, seem to come mysteriously within 2 to 3 days after a Linux Action Show episode features that specific content.
It happens every
now granted, this is news. So if something comes out, let's say a new release of Ubuntu,
sure,
everyone's gonna review it.
That's what happens.
Of course, the Linux Action Show review is going to be the best.
It'll be the reference,
and then other sites will, of course, have some similar content because, as Chris said,
the reference.
However, when something like, let's say, Arch comes along that doesn't even have releases, and nobody ever reviews Arch, and we review Arch, and I love Arch. I'm an Arch believer.
Yeah.
But when we do it, and then 2 days later, there is an article on Lifehacker
Well, we had to say something.
Now, granted, it was a great article. It was a long, epic article, but a lot of it was mysteriously very similar to our content.
Similarities. So we poked a little fun at the life hacker.
A little jab at him, you know.
And of course, in true Linux Action Show style, we put our foot in our mouth immediately because my Android pick had also just been recently featured on Lifehacker by coincidence. So I love that moment.
It was pretty fantastic. Now here's the thing, though. Linux Action Show viewers took charge of the moment.
Yeah.
They went over to Lifehacker, emailed the gentleman, posted comments like, it's very interesting that I saw this exact same content 2 days ago on Linux Action Show. A little tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Well, the writer of that article over at Lifehacker, A1 Whitson Gordon, manned up.
Yeah.
And emailed us. And I wanted to read a few of his words just because, honestly, kind of manly.
Yeah.
Massive amount of respect right now.
Yeah, he seemed like a really nice dude, and it sounded like a total coincidence.
And I quote, saw your most recent episode and your little shout out to Lifehacker. Smiley face. I just want to let you know that my article was a big, big coincidence. In fact, I hadn't even heard of you guys, before I wrote in, as I'm getting back into the Linux scene after a year-long absence. Year-long absence? We've been around for like 47 years.
Yeah.
I believe everything you said in this email you sent us, Mr. Whitson Gordon, except for that. You know you're a lifelong fan. You know you are.
Yeah.
All right. A bunch of Lifehacker readers commented on the post, things to the tune of, someone watched the Linux Action Show this week, after which I promptly watched a review. And you were right. A lot of the things I said were really similar to what you guys said, to the point where I was a bit surprised. At least I know I wasn't imagining all the great things I liked about Arch, huh? True enough.
True that.
It's funny. I'm actually a huge fan of your show now that I've seen it. After watching the Arch review, I've started going through the rest of the season and watching them during the day at work.
Good man.
You guys are seriously entertaining, and I've been looking for a good Linux podcast to watch. I love the guys at Twit, but their Linux show isn't the best.
Womp womp.
Hey, by the way, Leo, call us. We could, Mr. Leo Laporte, we could help you out here.
Every network needs a little action.
He goes on to say, just wanted to let you guys know that we actually come up with the feature ideas the week before they come out.
That makes sense.
So I had no idea you guys were doing your Arch review, nor had I seen it posted.
Yeah.
That's fairly cool.
See, sometimes we forget that not everyone's completely off the cuff all the time.
Now, here's the great thing. Even though this was a coincidence, he goes on. I actually meant to give you guys a link once I watched the episode, but it appears it got lost in the day-to-day scramble. I've appended the article with a link to your show, the Arch episode, and an explanation of what happened because it really was a great review. I'm sorry for any confusion or stress. Trust me, we don't get that stressed out. Even when I'm like all frothing at the mouth, angry about Fedora or something, afterwards I'm like, all right. So you want to get a cheeseburger?
Yeah.
I mean, I really just don't get stressed out.
I do want a cheeseburger.
Because it was a really great review. I'm sorry for any confusion and stress this may have caused, and I promise you it was just a big, unintentional coincidence. I just decided to install Arch on a whim the week before and loved it so much that I had to write about it. It's amazing how much people love Arch when they try it.
Yeah.
And they actually give it like more than a day or two to really get used to it.
That's exactly what it is.
Keep up the great work. You guys have earned a loyal follower.
That's great.
Love that. So head on over to lifehacker.com. If you don't go to Lifehacker, it is a really great site. They, interestingly enough, have some of the same content we do.
I would say they have some great Linux content, Brad.
They have some great Linux content. So anyway, check out this guy, Whitson Gordon. Also, Lifehacker. Pay Whitson Gordon more. That was probably the best article you guys have had in like a month.
That was a really good article.
It was good. I mean, it was great. It was a Linux article about installing Arch
and using
setting up a great Arch system, what's great about it, where its drawbacks are, how you might approach it, and it was readable with great screenshots, step by. It was awesome. And at the end, it even had a link to the Linux Action Show. Those are like the things that I look for in a Lifehacker article.
That makes a perfect article.
What would be great? Maybe do that sort of thing with your Android picks. Here's a great example. This Monday or Tuesday, do an Android pick. like this beer app we just did. Yeah. Just saying, maybe coincidentally it'll happen, or the VNC server. Talk about either one,
or the history wiper.
Include a link to the Linux Action Show and talk about it like we talked about it. That'll be a great article.
Probably.
Yeah.
Chat room thinks so. They're totally on board.
Yeah. Fantastic.
The chat room says you app get installed sarcasm.
Maybe.
All
All
right.
right. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so jupiterbroadcasting.com. Jupitercolony.com is the forum.
Yep.
Facebook.com/jupiterbroadcasting.
Brian.
Twitter.com/Brian Lunduke. There's also Chris LAS.
That's
and,
me.
And all that sort of good stuff.
I love
Is there
that.
anything else we got?
I don't think so.
Those are ways you can get a hold of us.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun if you get a hold of us in those ways.
Probably the best ways.
Yeah, it's snowing outside. I kind of don't want to end the episode because that means I got to stand up, walk out in the
and go out in
snow,
the snow.
and get really cold.
I got to be honest with you, Brian. I checked the show notes, or the show notes. I checked the old voicemail box today before the show.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe I'd. So what I'm doing, just so you don't know, is even if you leave us a voicemail and it doesn't make it into the show, I'm trying to play them during the pre-show of the Linux Action Show. We kind of play them and we pick which one we like the best, so they all get heard. And there's about 200 people right now watching the live stream, so there's a good amount of 201, a good amount of people that will get to watch or get to hear your voicemail. So we would absolutely love if you want to call us and leave us a voicemail on any topic that we've covered here on the show.
There's an actual honest-to-God phone number.
Yes, sir.
With a +1 in front of it, which means we're in America.
425-533-2217.
And I don't know exactly what that would spell out. I'm sure there's a great word we could make with that. I'll work on that for next week's episode. So
you don't have to worry about the number, though. Just go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com, click on the Contact Us link, and then we've got a Google Voice applet there that you put your number and it calls you for free.
Clickety-click, you talkity-talk, and then you hang up.
Boom. All right, everyone.
I just told you step by step how to do it, and it was so hard that I repeated words.
There you have it. Thanks, everyone, so much for tuning in to today. You're making me lose it, man. For tuning into this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, and we'll be back next week.
Everybody, we're gonna be back next week.
Good night and good luck.
And have a pleasant tomorrow. That's all I got, guys. I can't do a British accent. If I try to do a British accent, it comes across like, hello, I am British. Yeah, I got monitor. All right, we're going to do a Mayor Quimby. Do a British Aussie Yoda kind of thing. I think that's Mayor Quimby. Here we go. This week on the Linux Action Show, we've got you covered in the essential tools you need to be a remote Linux superhero. Plus, things are looking up for MeeGo's future app store. As momentum continues... How do you say momentum as Mayor Quimby? As momentum. That's funky. Nah, we'll just stick with the first one. I can't say momentum as Mayor Quimby and actually make it work. You've watched the Bear Grylls where he eats goat poo? He's done it in a couple of them now. Yeah, well, he's walking along. He's like, oh, it's a goat droppings. It's just packed with vitamins. And he picks them up and he's like, oh, the local peoples use these as a delicacy. Oh, they're like little mini vitamins. Oh, and it's just so important to get all the nutrition you can when you're out here in the cold. It's just so important. That's a really good Bear Grylls. I love Bear Grylls, man. That guy is manly.